Well, take a look at this fire extinguisher here. It's the same kind you'll find in almost every city police vehicle.
That was the Edward R. Murrow award-winning piece by Fox Connecticut's investigative reporter, Beau Berman. The piece he is most proud of.
That story on fire extinguishers and police vehicles is the biggest investigative story that I've ever broken and have ever covered. That story, is sort of my pride and joy still to this point. I hope to top it someday, and I think that I will. But to this point, that's definitely the story I'm most proud of.
So what did it mean winning that award to you?
Now, as for the award, that was sort of an afterthought. The biggest thing to me was getting the state law changed, which I never even expected to have happen, but it did. The short story is just that an 18-year-old girl died in a car crash, a fiery car crash, and it was after that happened, it was discovered that two of the fire extinguishers that police officers had in their vehicles that they were trying to use to put out the fire in the car crash didn't work. And so it all started from a simple interview with the father of this girl, just to talk about his sorrow whenever he called me aside at the end of that interview and said, hey, I've got something else, this might be a little bit bigger. And he showed me these fire extinguisher tags that he had found on the side of the road that were expired.
While the fire extinguisher story was the highlight of Beau's career, covering the shooting at Sandy Hook was an entirely different experience.
You were one of the first reporters on the scene at Newtown in Sandy Hook. Tell me, what was the first thing you saw? One of the first things you saw?
I saw parents, running, holding their students' hands or their kids' hands, running away from the school. Some just had blank faces on. Some were crying. Some just looked like they were in shock.
When you found that out, because it took a while before we got a number of 20 kids, when you found that out, just where did it go from there for you, like mentally, emotionally, just as a reporter or just as a person?
This hit hard because I was standing there at pretty much the base of the school or the firehouse when that was finally confirmed that there were 20 children that had been shot to death. To think that it happened just 100 yards from where I was standing just 2 hours earlier was nuts. I mean, it was just ridiculous, and it was sad. So you have to keep yourself composed though, and I did that, and I do that, and it's a tricky thing because it's a balance. You want to let that emotion in and absorb it so you can accurately convey the emotion of the story and what people are feeling. But likewise, you can't let it in too much, or else you won't be able to operate.
Being one of the first reporters on the scene, Beau admitted to being nervous and wondered how he was going to approach covering the shooting.
Part of my instinct was to start asking them for interviews and saying, hey, what like we normally do on a scene is flag them down and say, excuse me, can we ask you a couple questions? What happened? What's going on? Are you okay? That sort of thing. But in this situation, for better or worse, I just couldn't bring myself to do that. I think there was kind of this feeling somehow just in the air of maybe what had happened and how bad this could have been. And the people just looked so grief-stricken that it wasn't something I could even bring myself to do at that moment.
Really, how tough was it to report?
This was easily the hardest story I've ever had to cover. Nothing else compares to this, and I did cover, tropical storm, or not tropical storm, but superstorm or Hurricane Sandy. I've covered wildfires, murders, just a lot of sad stories. And this was just easily the hardest one to cover. And I think that's pretty much for obvious reasons. But the thing about it is being there so quickly, one of the first on the scene made it that much more impressionable, I guess, on me and real to me. The pure just hours. And then even when you came home, this was the kind of story that you couldn't get away from. So for the few hours that I did come home and sleep or eat or rest, I would turn on the news, whether it be it national or local, or even open up my computer, and I saw it again. And so there was no getting away from it. And it made it really poignant to me because I was there in Newtown just an hour before, and then I'm seeing national coverage, some of it just because of their abilities more in depth than our coverage, or real personal interviews with people. So that was part of what just made it difficult because you couldn't get away from it. In many stories, you can come home and kind of have that separation between work and home, and in this case, that didn't really exist.